Imagine a brotherly rivalry, but one so intense it spirals into, well, a full-blown civil war.
Yeah, a conflict really fueled by pure ambition, some shocking betrayals along the way.
And this army, an army of mercenaries, mostly Greek, who didn't even know where they were really marching, right into the heart of the Persian Empire.
That's the electrifying story we're digging into today,
Welcome to the deep dive.
where we take the sources you give us today. It's Xenophon's Anabasis, specifically the first book, and we pull out the really important bits.
Our mission is to help you understand this pivotal moment in ancient history, Cyrus the Younger's bid for power, without getting bogged down in every single detail.
Exactly. We want to unpack what drove him. I mean, what makes someone challenge their own brother, the king?
And the planning. How did he manage this huge secret mobilization, getting thousands of Greek soldiers together under this, veil of secrecy?
And then the march itself towards this completely uncertain destiny. Let's get into it.
Okay, so where does it all kick off?
Well, it starts right after King Darius dies. His older son, Artaxerxes, takes the throne. Pretty standard so far.
But not so long.
Not for long.
Yeah.
Almost immediately there's trouble. A powerful governor, Tissaphernes, who was supposedly friendly with Cyrus, turns on him.
He goes to the new king, Artaxerxes, with these accusations.
Yeah, basically slander. Claims Cyrus is plotting treason.
And Artaxerxes buys it.
He does. He actually arrests Cyrus, intends to execute him right then and there. It shows how precarious things were.
Yeah, so close. But then their mother steps in.
Persiatis, yes, really key figure here. She pleads for Cyrus, gets him spared, and convinces Artaxerxes to send him back to his province, his satrapy.
It seems pretty clear she had a favorite son.
Oh, absolutely. Xenophon implies she definitely preferred Cyrus, and that plays a huge role later.
So Cyrus goes back to his province, but he's not just relieved to be alive, is he?
No, not at all. That near-death experience, the humiliation, it changes him. Xenophon says his goal now wasn't just to avoid being under his brother's thumb again.
He wanted the throne.
He wanted to be king. Full stop. So he starts working, building loyalty, turning people against the king, subtly at first.
Okay, so the ambition is there, but how do you raise an army capable of taking on the great king without him noticing? That seems, well, impossible.
It required some serious cunning. His main cover story was the ongoing spat with Tissaphernes over the Greek cities in Ionia.
Right, the ones on the coast. Most had already sided with Cyrus anyway.
Except Miletus. Tissaphernes had cracked down hard there, executed some, banished others.
And Cyrus uses that.
Perfectly. He welcomes the exiles from Miletus, then starts besieging the city, saying he wants to restore them.
Which gives him a reason to gather troops, build ships.
Exactly, a legitimate-looking reason. He even complains to the king, basically saying, these cities should be mine, not Tissaphernes.
And crucially, his mother, Persiatis, is back at court, supporting this narrative.
Yes, she helps smooth things over. The king, Artaxerxes, kind of misjudges the whole situation. He seems to think, oh, it's just Cyrus fighting Tissaphernes, let them weaken each other.
Plus, Cyrus was careful to send the king the tribute money from those cities, even the ones that technically belonged to Tissaphernes.
Smart move. It lulled the king into a false sense of security. It really shows you how much ancient power politics was about perception and hidden agendas.
So that's the general cover. But he also needed specific generals and forces, right?
Right. He needed experienced commanders and reliable troops, especially Greeks. So he gets Clearchus involved.
The Spartan exile. A tough commander.
Yeah, Cyrus really admired him. He gives Clearchus 10,000 derricks, a lot of gold, and Clearchus uses it to raise his own force up in the Chersonese.
Supposedly fighting Thracians.
That was the cover story. But those troops were really being kept ready for Cyrus.
Clever. And there were others.
Oh, yes. There's Aristippus, a friend from Thessaly. He comes asking for help against rivals back home and needs pay for 2,000 mercenaries for 3 months.
And Cyrus.
Cyrus gives him double that. Pay for 4,000 men for 6 months, but with one condition.
Which was?
Aristippus couldn't make peace with his rivals without checking with Cyrus first, essentially keeping that army on retainer.
So he's building these pockets of force, all under different excuses.
Exactly. Proxenus, Sophonidas, Socrates, other Greek commanders, they're told to raise men too for supposed campaigns against troublesome neighbors like the Pisidians or against Tissaphernes.
It's like this intricate web he's weaving. Deception, loyalty, money. It really makes you think about trust and power back then.
Absolutely. a very high-stakes game.
Okay, so the pieces are in place. The march begins from Sardis, still officially about fighting the Pisidians.
Right, maintain the fiction for as long as possible. But Tissaphernes, well, he wasn't stupid. He sees the scale of this build-up, the mercenaries, the supplies.
He figures it out.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He realizes this isn't just about him or some mountain tribes. This is aimed higher.
So he bolts?
Yep. Takes about 500 cavalry and rides like mad to warn the king in Babylon, which of course means the king starts his own counter-preparations. The secret is starting to unravel.
Meanwhile, Cyrus is marching on, gathering his forces.
Yes, more Greeks join up along the route. They reach Selene in Phrygia. Xenophon mentions Cyrus has a palace there, a big hunting park.
And that myth about Apollo and Marsyas?
Yeah, the musical contest gone wrong. That supposedly happened there. But militarily, the key thing is Cyrus holds a review. By now, he's got around 11,000 Greek hoplites, the heavy infantry, and maybe 2,000 lighter troops, the peltasts.
A substantial Greek force. But then there's a problem.
Money. Always money with mercenaries.
They hadn't been paid.
They were 3 months behind on pay, and they start demanding it repeatedly. Cyrus is promising, stalling. It's getting tense.
Until rescue arrives.
Sort of. Queen Epioxa of Cilicia shows up for a visit. Xenophon says she brings Cyrus a large gift of money, enough for him to finally pay the troops 4 months' wages.
And Xenophon mentions rumors about Cyrus and the queen.
He does. Hints at intimacy, whether it's true or just scrap gossip, who knows. But it shows how personal relationships and politics were, well, tangled up.
So, with the troops paid and the queen visiting, Cyrus decides to put on a show.
Oh, yeah. A full military review near Tyriam, specifically to impress Epioxa, but also maybe to gauge his own forces.
Yeah.
He orders the Greeks to form up for battle, standard formation.
And they advance?
First walking, then picking up the pace, then they let out the Eleliu, their war cry and charge, running straight at the barbarian camp where the review was happening.
What happened?
Pandemonium. Xenophon paints this vivid picture. The queen flees in her carriage, the merchants in the nearby market drop everything and run for their lives. The Greeks charge into the camp, roaring with laughter.
So it worked?
Brilliantly. The queen was amazed by their discipline and gleaming armor. But Cyrus, Xenophon says he was most pleased by the sheer terror the Greeks inspired in his non-Greek troops and onlookers.
A psychological weapon as much as a military one?
Definitely. Showing everyone the power he now wielded.
But the march wasn't all smooth sailing and impressive reviews. Things got dicey at Tarsus.
Very dicey. By now, the Greeks are deep in Cilicia, far from the coast. And the suspicion that they aren't just fighting Pisidians, that the real target is the king. It boils over.
They refuse to go further.
Flat out refuse. And Clearchus, the Spartan general, tries his usual tough approach, tries to force his men to march.
How did that go?
Terribly. They start throwing stones at him and his baggage animals. Xenophon says they nearly stoned him to death.
Wow. So his authority just crumbled.
For a moment, yes. He realizes force won't work, so he changes tactics completely. He calls an assembly. He stands before them and starts weeping. Gives this incredibly emotional speech. Doesn't blame them, says he understands, but emphasizes their bond. He says, I look upon you as my country, my friends, my allies. Wherever you are, I shall be.
A very personal appeal.
Hugely effective. It wins over his own men completely. But it gets better. Over 2,000 soldiers from other Greek generals, Xenius and Paushan, are so moved they desert their commanders and join Clearchus.
Incredible. So Clearchus now has this much larger, loyal force. What next?
Well, he plays it cool with Cyrus. Doesn't go crawling back. He sends a message saying, basically, don't worry, it'll work out. Then he holds another assembly with his now expanded force.
Laying out the options.
Exactly. He points out the dangers. Staying put is risky. Retreating without Cyrus's help is risky. They need Cyrus, but Cyrus also needs them. Some suggest asking Cyrus for ships to sail home, or a guide. Clearchus called these ideas simple-minded. Because why would Cyrus help them leave when he needs them? The smarter approach, they decide, is to send a delegation to Cyrus and ask him point-blank what his real plan is.
Does Cyrus finally come clean?
Not quite. He sticks to a modified version of the cover story. He says he's marching against Abracomas, another rival satrap, supposedly waiting on the Euphrates River, 12 days' march away.
Still evasive.
Very. He says if Abracomas is there, they'll punish him. If he's fled, then they'll figure out what to do next.
Do the soldiers buy it?
Not entirely. They still suspect the king is the real target. But they agree to follow, on one condition. More pay. They demand a raise. And Cyrus, needing them desperately, agrees. promises them 1.5 derricks a month instead of one, a 50% raise.
It really shows the constant negotiation, doesn't it? This delicate balance between the commander's ambition and the mercenaries' self-interest.
Absolutely. Leadership here wasn't just about orders. It was about persuasion, manipulation, and knowing when to spend money.
So, crisis averted, sort of. They march on. What's the next major development?
Well, more forces arrive. Down at Usi, near the coast, Cyrus's fleet meets up with ships from Sparta. This brings more hoplites, more muscle.
But then another loyalty test, a big one.
Yeah, Myrandus, a port city. Those two generals whose troops had deserted to Clearchus earlier, Xenius and Pesan.
What about them?
They desert. They hire a ship, load up their most valuable stuff, and sail away, abandoning Cyrus completely.
Ouch. How does Cyrus react this time? Another pay rise?
No, something quite different. And really striking. He calls the remaining generals together. He says, look, Xenius and Pesan are gone. He could chase them down with his warships, capture them.
But he won't.
He won't. He makes this amazing declaration, something like, let no one say I use people when they're with me, but when they want to leave, I seize them, abuse them, and take their property.
That's noble, especially for the time.
Incredibly so. He even adds that he has their wives and children held as security back in trowels, but he won't harm them. He'll return them.
What effect did that have on the remaining Greeks?
Profound, according to Xenophon. Even the ones who were reluctant about the march felt happier, more eager to follow him now. It showed a kind of high-mindedness, a trustworthiness that really boosted morale.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? Letting traitors go makes the loyal ones more loyal.
It seems so. It solidified his image as a leader who, despite the deception about the march's goal, had a certain code of honor.
Okay, so morale is up. They finally reach the big river, the Euphrates, at a place called Thapsacus.
This is it, the point of no return, really. And Cyrus decides it's time.
To tell them the truth.
Yes. He gathers the Greek generals and finally lays it bare. We're marching on Babylon against the great king, my brother.
How did the soldiers take that?
They were angry. Furious, actually.
Yeah.
Not just at Cyrus, but at their own generals for keeping it secret for so long. They refused to cross the river, unless they got a bonus. They had heard stories that Greek mercenaries who had previously accompanied a Persian noble on a peaceful visit got a big payout. They wanted something similar.
Another demand for money. Does Cyrus agree again?
He does. He has to. He promises 5 silver minae per man, a very significant sum once they reach Babylon, plus full pay until he gets them safely back home to the Ionian coast.
That seems to do the trick for most of them.
For most, yes. But then one general, Menon, sees an opportunity.
Menon again. What does he do?
He pulls his own troops aside, gives them a speech, basically says, look, everyone else is still debating. If we cross the river first, before they even decide, Cyrus will owe us big time. We'll be his favorites.
Pure opportunism.
Textbook. And his men agree. They march down and cross the Euphrates before anyone else has even given their final answer.
And Cyrus?
Delighted. Xenophon says he was well pleased and sent generous gifts to Menon. It shows how Cyrus rewarded initiative, even if it was self-serving.
And the crossing itself, Xenophon makes it sound almost miraculous.
He does. The Euphrates was usually deep there, needing boats. But they found it unexpectedly shallow. The whole army just waded across.
Why was it shallow?
Turns out, Abracomus, the satrap Cyrus claimed he was chasing, had been nearby but retreated, burning all the boats as he went to try and slow Cyrus down.
So it wasn't divine intervention.
Probably not, but the perception was huge. The soldiers saw it as the river itself bowing down, a sign the gods favored their campaign, a massive morale boost.
Okay, so they've crossed the Euphrates, they're committed, and now it's the march through the desert towards Babylon. Was that easy?
Far from it. Xenophon describes real hardship. No fodder for the baggage animals, many starved. The soldiers had to rely solely on meat, hunting wild asses and bustards.
And the terrain.
Difficult. Wagons kept getting stuck in mud or soft ground, which leads to another telling story about Cyrus.
Oh.
At one point, wagons are bogged down, and the Persian nobles with Cyrus are, standing around watching the regular soldiers struggle. Cyrus gets angry.
What does he do?
He orders his high-ranking Persian companions, these guys in fancy clothes, to get down there and help push the wagons out.
Seriously, how did they react?
Immediately. Xenophon says they threw off their expensive purple cloaks, leaped down jewelry and all, and ran into the mud, grabbing timbers and levers, heaving the wagons out faster than you could imagine.
That speaks volumes about the loyalty or maybe the fear he inspired even among the Persian elite.
Discipline, certainly. Intense loyalty. It showed they'd do anything he commanded, instantly.
Why was Cyrus pushing them so hard through this difficult terrain?
Speed. He was convinced the king wouldn't expect him to arrive so quickly. He thought the vastness of the empire was also its weakness. If he struck fast at the center, the king wouldn't have time to gather his full strength.
Makes sense. But did this relentless pace cause friction within his own army?
It did. Tensions flared up again, this time between Clearchus's men and Menon's men. Remember Menon, the opportunist?
Right. What happened?
One of Menon's soldiers had a dispute with one of Clearchus's, and Clearchus, being harsh, had the man flogged. This infuriated Menon's troops.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Later, Clearchus happens to ride through Menon's camp. One of Menon's soldiers sees him, starts chopping at him with an axe, misses, and then others start throwing stones. Clearchus barely escapes.
So Clearchus rallies his own troops.
He does. Hoplites, Thracian light troops. Menon forms his men up too. It looks like it's about to become an all-out battle between the Greek factions.
Right in the middle of enemy territory. How did Cyrus handle
that? Dramatically. He gets word, grabs his javelins, gallops between the two hostile lines with just his trusted advisors. He shouts at them something like, "Stop! If you fight each other, we're all doomed. I'll be killed today, and you'll be destroyed right after me."
It worked.
Instantly. Xenophon says the men were ashamed, lowered their weapons, and order was restored. It shows Cyrus's immense personal authority and his ability to intervene decisively in a crisis.
He seems to handle external threats and internal strife almost equally well. But then comes another internal threat.
The Orontes conspiracy. This one's chilling.
Who was Orontes?
A high-ranking Persian noble related to the king. He had actually fought Cyrus before, then reconciled. Cyrus had trusted him, given him command.
And he betrays Cyrus again.
Yes. He's caught trying to send a secret letter to the king, offering to desert with his cavalry force if the king sends support.
How does Cyrus deal with this betrayal right on the eve of battle?
He convenes a sort of court-martial in his tent. 7 top Persian advisors, plus Clearchus representing the Greeks because Cyrus valued his judgment. Orontes is brought in.
And Cyrus confronts him.
Calmly, methodically. He lists Orontes' previous acts of war against him, how Cyrus spared him, how they exchanged oaths of loyalty. He asks Orontes, "Have I done you any wrong?"
What does Orontes say?
He admits Cyrus has done him no wrong. Cyrus asks why, then, he conspired again. Orontes basically says, "There was no reason. I just felt compelled." A very strange, fatalistic answer.
So what's the verdict?
Cyrus asks everyone present for their opinion. Clearchus speaks first and is blunt. "My advice is to put this man out of the way at once so we don't have to guard against him anymore." Everyone else agrees.
And the execution?
It's shrouded in a bit of mystery. Orontes is led away by officers. Xenophon notes that people who used to bow to Orontes still bowed to him even as he was being taken to his death. But no one ever saw him dead or alive again. No one knew exactly how he was executed.
A swift, decisive, and ruthless end to a potential threat.
Absolutely. It shows that side of Cyrus, too. The magnanimity towards Gordius and Pison was one thing. Direct treason on the verge of battle was another. He could be utterly ruthless when necessary.
These incidents together paint such a complex picture of him. Noble, strategic, manipulative, ruthless. A leader who could inspire fierce loyalty but also demand absolute obedience.
He was certainly extraordinary. A product of his time, perhaps, but clearly a leader of immense capability and charisma.
All right, so the internal threats are dealt with. The army is unified, albeit nervously. They're approaching Babylon. The final confrontation is near.
Yes, the Battle of Cunaxa. Cyrus holds one last review, likely near midnight, expecting the king might attack at dawn. He speaks to his Greek commanders.
What's his message?
Confidence. He praises their known superiority over Persian troops. "I didn't take you because I lacked barbarians," he says, "but because I believed you were better and stronger than many barbarians." He emphasizes liberty versus servitude.
And promises rewards.
Huge rewards. A gold crown for every single Greek soldier if they win. Governorships, wealth for his close friends. He tries to assure them the king will fight, dismissing any idea that the king might just let him take over.
What were the numbers like? We hear these massive figures for the Persian army.
The numbers Xenophon gives are staggering. He puts Cyrus's force at around 13,000 Greeks and maybe 100,000 allied barbarians or non-Greeks. For the king, Artaxerxes, the number reported is 1.2 million, though Xenophon thinks maybe 900,000 actually fought, plus hundreds of those scythe chariots.
Even if exaggerated, the king's army was vastly larger.
Immensely larger, overwhelmingly so. And there was that strange incident with the soothsayer just before.
Silanus, the one who said the king wouldn't fight within 10 days.
Right. And when 10 days passed and no battle happened, Cyrus paid him a huge sum, 10 talents. But this seems to have made Cyrus a bit complacent.
How so?
He started marching in a more relaxed formation, less prepared for immediate battle, thinking the king had indeed decided not to fight him directly.
Then there was that defensive trench the king had dug.
Yes, a massive trench, supposedly 30 feet wide, 18 deep, stretching for miles. But when Cyrus's army reached it, they found a narrow passage alongside the Euphrates, completely unguarded. They just marched through.
Which would surely reinforce the idea that the king was avoiding battle.
Exactly. It seemed like confirmation. Yeah. A major, fatal miscalculation, as it turned out.
So a few days after passing the trench, they're marching relatively casually.
Yes, Cyrus is actually riding in his chariot, not on his war horse.
Yeah.
The troops are marching loosely. Many haven't got their heavy armor on yet. Then suddenly,
Panic.
a rider comes galloping flat out, Ctesias, one of Cyrus's trusted Persians, shouting in Persian and Greek that the king is coming. A huge army, deployed for battle, advancing fast.
Chaos.
Utter chaos.
Xenophon describes Cyrus leaping from his chariot, shouting for his breastplate, jumping onto his horse, orders flying everywhere. Arm yourselves. Get into formation.
Men scrambling to put on greaves, breastplates, find their shields and spears.
How did the king's army look as it approached?
Terrifying. A massive line stretching across the plain. Dense blocks of infantry, cavalry on the flanks, and out front, those scythe chariots designed to break enemy lines.
And the sound.
That was the weird thing. Cyrus had predicted the Persians would advance with loud shouts and noise. But Xenophon says they came on in deep silence, softly and slowly, almost unnervingly calm.
Eerie. So the lines are forming up. Where are Cyrus and the Greeks positioned?
The Greeks under Clearchus are on the right flank, anchored near the Euphrates River. Cyrus, with his personal guard of 600 elite cavalry, is in the center right, opposite where they believe the king himself is positioned.
And Cyrus gives Clearchus a specific order.
Yes, he rides over and tells Clearchus to lead the Greek attack directly against the king's center. His thinking was, hit the king, the battle ends.
Did Clearchus obey?
He didn't. He hesitated. He told Cyrus he'd see that all went well, but his priority was protecting his own flank by the river. He was worried about being surrounded if he advanced too far forward into the Persian mass.
A cautious move, maybe strategically sound from Clearchus's perspective, but disobeying Cyrus's direct command at a crucial moment.
Exactly, a moment of friction that might have had consequences. Anyway, the Greeks begin their advance.
How did that go?
Textbook Greek charge. First, they sing the paean, their battle hymn. Then the cry, Iliou, Iliou. Then they start running towards the Persian line opposite them.
In the Persians.
They broke before the Greeks even got close enough to shoot arrows. Xenophon says they just turned and fled in terror. The discipline and reputation of the hoplites were that intimidating.
What about the scythe chariots? Weren't they supposed to cause havoc?
Mostly ineffective against the charging Greeks. Some charioteers were thrown, some chariots bolted through gaps the Greeks opened, others were captured. They didn't break the Greek line at all.
And Greek casualties in this initial clash?
Astonishingly light. Xenophon claims only one Greek soldier was wounded in the entire initial rout of the Persian left wing. Just one arrow wound.
Incredible. So the Greek flank is victorious, the enemy opposite them is fleeing. What's Cyrus doing?
He sees the Greek success and is overjoyed. His men around him start hailing him as king already, but Cyrus isn't celebrating. His eyes are fixed elsewhere.
On his brother.
On Artaxerxes. He sees the king's massive personal guard in the center, which hadn't broken. And he sees the king starting to maneuver, potentially to swing around behind the victorious Greeks.
So Cyrus makes his move.
His fatal move. With his elite 600 cavalry, he charges directly at the king's position, aiming straight for his brother.
A personal challenge.
He smashes through the first line of defenders, supposedly killing their commander, Artaxerxes himself. His 600 drive back 6,000. It's an incredibly bold, almost reckless charge.
But
his men get carried away. They scatter in pursuit of the fleeing Persians, leaving Cyrus dangerously exposed, with only a handful of his closest companions, his table companions, still around him.
And then he sees him.
Yes. Xenophon recounts Cyrus crying out, "I see the man." He charges directly at his brother Artaxerxes, gets close enough to throw a javelin, and wounds the king through his breastplate.
He actually wounded the king.
He did. But in that same instant, some ways Xenophon says it wasn't clear who, maybe a Carian soldier throws a javelin that strikes Cyrus just under the eye.
And he falls.
He falls. And in the fierce fighting over his body, Cyrus and 8 of his most loyal companions are killed, falling literally on top of him.
A tragic end. Right at the moment of seeming victory for his army, his personal quest ends in death.
Exactly. Artaxerxes, His most trusted attendant, the one who carried his scepter, was apparently found dead on Cyrus's body. Some say the king ordered him killed there, others that he killed himself with his own golden dagger, a gift from Cyrus, unable to live after his master's fall.
It really underscores the idea that his personal courage, his desire to face his brother directly, while heroic, ultimately led to his downfall and doomed the entire enterprise.
Absolutely. If he'd perhaps stayed back, consolidated the Greek victory. But that wasn't Cyrus. His ambition was total, his focus absolute.
So what happens immediately after Cyrus falls?
Chaos and brutality. The king orders Cyrus's head and right hand, the hand that wounded him, to be cut off. A symbolic desecration.
And the battle elsewhere.
The king's troops, having dealt with Cyrus, swing toward Cyrus's camp and start pillaging it. They capture Cyrus's concubine from Phocaea.
But not the other one.
No, his Milesian concubine manages to escape, naked, to the small contingent of Greeks who had been left guarding the baggage train. And those Greeks actually fight bravely, defending what little they could, killing some looters.
So they're still fighting. And confusion.
Massive confusion. Because the Greeks on the right flank, having routed the Persians opposite them, think they've won the whole battle. They don't know Cyrus is dead. Meanwhile, the king, having killed Cyrus, also thinks he's won. Neither side initially understands the full picture.
What happens when they figure it out?
Well, the king eventually realizes the Greeks haven't been beaten. He reforms his massive army and advances again, this time towards the victorious Greek flank. Tissaphernes, who had sort of skirted around the main Greek hoplite line and skirmished ineffectively with their light troops, rejoins the king.
How do the Greeks react to this second advance? They must be tired, confused.
They are, but their discipline holds. Xenophon says they formed up again, sang the paean again, and charged again, this time with even more enthusiasm than before.
And the result?
The Persians broke even faster this time. The king and his forces fled even further back than the first time. The psychological dominance of the Greek hoplites was just overwhelming.
But it's getting late by now.
Yes, the sun is setting. The Greeks halt their pursuit. They're wondering where Cyrus is. They assume he must have charged off in pursuit somewhere or maybe gone to occupy some village. They still have no idea he's dead.
So they head back to their camp, expecting to finally rest and eat.
Only to find it completely looted. Everything gone. Food, wine, supplies. Xenophon mentioned Cyrus had prepared 400 wagons loaded with flour and wine just for the Greeks, in case of need. All plundered by the king's men.
A devastating end to the day. Victorious on the battlefield technically, but leaderless, deep in enemy territory, and now starving.
A supperless night, as Xenophon puts it. A stark, grim situation.
So let's recap. We've traced Cyrus the Younger's incredible journey from near execution to secretly building a massive army, leading them deep into Persia, displaying amazing leadership, cunning, sometimes ruthlessness.
Right up to his dramatic death. At the moment, his prize seemed within reach at Cunaxa. We saw how he inspired loyalty, navigated treachery, and ultimately how his own focused ambition led to his end.
As the sun set on that battlefield, these Greek mercenaries found themselves in an impossible position. Victorious, but stranded, their leader dead, their purpose gone, surrounded by a hostile empire ruled by an enraged king.
This deep dive into just the first book of the Anabasis really shows the sheer audacity of Cyrus's gamble, the high stakes, and the brutal realities of ancient warfare and power.
And it leaves us, and you, the listener, with a huge question. It's not just how this all happened, but what on earth happens next to these 10,000 or so Greeks, stranded, leaderless, thousands of miles from home?
Their story, their struggle for survival, that's where the true legend of the 10,000 really begins.